Hi. So I'm going to walk you through how you're going to do your applications for your jobs. Now, I'm not feeling my best today, so I thought, we're going to do this pandemic style. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to record this once so I can just show it all day. I can save my throat's really sore. I can save my voice a little bit, and I can still teach you guys today without having to repeat this 6 or 7 times in a row. So here we go. We're going to start with the jobs. What are the jobs? So we're going to start with, I'm going to ask my assistant that just walked in to go ahead and close the door for me. And we are going to talk about who it takes to put on a show. So first of all, there's the writer. You guys can't apply to be the writer because we are going to be choosing folk tales that Mrs. Keith's going to show you on Monday, and you're going to get to pick your favorite one, and we're going to adapt it into a play. Now, for the folk tales, they've already been written. They've been passed down for generations, and you don't have to worry about that. But the writer would be really important to a Broadway show because that's the person that creates the show. Same thing with a composer. If it's a musical, obviously someone needs to compose the music. The producer. You can't be the producer either. Mrs. Keith and I are your producers. The producer is the person that goes out and bankrolls the production. That means they go out and they say, money, please. And they go to wealthy donors, or they go to foundations, or they go to anywhere that can, banks, anywhere that can say, we will back your production financially. We will give your show money, and then if the show makes money, guess what? They get that extra money back. So they could actually make money by giving money to your show. If it was Broadway, this is not Broadway. We don't need investors. We are your producers in that we are supplying you with paper and scissors and glue to make your props and some costumes and space to do your show. So we are your producers. All right, so let's start to get into the things that you can apply for. Director rehearses the actors, is responsible for the overall vision of the show, writes the blocking, works closely with all members of the cast. They're the boss. It is a director and not a dictator, though. So you need to be someone who not just likes to boss people around and tell them what to do. You need to be someone who actually wants to work with people to help people. You can't just be bossy. You have to be a problem solver and someone who's organized and has a vision for everything. That's a director. The music director works on what you guys are basically doing a play with music in the background. It's just not enough time to put on a musical. But you need someone who's going to have a vision for, okay, we're going to play tracks that we find online. Are we going to write our own music, like little lines that we can do with like the guitars or the drums or the keyboards that we have, things like that around the room? How are we going to make music for the background? And again, someone who's good at working on their own, but still getting stuff done. Okay, set designer. The set designer works with the director to envision the look of the stage. They have to work together. They have to have the same vision. They'll have their own crew of design crew people who are going to be in charge of helping make those sets. Maybe you decide, oh, you know what, we want projections like we use for Matilda, and they would get on Classroom, or not Classroom, sorry, Google Slides, and they would make those backgrounds for the show. So basically, the set designer could build sets, paint sets, make sets, or they can design sets that are going to be shown with the projector. The publicity person, if no one comes to your show, what's the point of having a show? Your publicity person is the person that's in charge of making posters, hanging those up in the hall, inviting people through invitations that they can write, or maybe, they could do it. We've had people do a trailer that we've played on WMSK. The publicity person gets out the word, hey, guess what? We're doing a show. And that's what publicity is for, telling everybody that and getting people to your show. Costumes. All right, costumes also need to work with the director closely because you want to have a shared vision. What should your characters wear? What makes them look like the character they're playing? Some of the folktales have animals. How do we make them look like animals without, worrying about them being too much like animals? So they're still like people playing animals. So costumes. Are the costumes relevant to the place where the folktale's from? If your folktale's from Vietnam, what can you do to incorporate some of that cultural identity into that? So think about how to make it work with the show and with the story you're telling. Props. Props and costumes should work very seriously, very closely together. Props are things that actors interact with. Costumes are things they wear the whole time. So you have to kind of go through and see how the character's using that item. So props are really important. You two can go ahead and go. Just close the door behind you. All right. So props are really important to the overall. And by the way, if you just heard that bell, it's not in your class. It's part of the video. Props are really important to telling a story. Are you going to make them or are you going to find them? That's what the prop person needs to decide and then come up with all the props for the show. Stage manager works closely with the director, does odd jobs. I always think of them as kind of like the theater cops. They're kind of the ones that are keeping the order. They're making sure, if you guys could just wait out in the hall for me with the door closed, thank you. They're making sure that all the actors are in place and ready to go. No one's missing their cue, no one's missing their scene. The props are set before the show, and they kind of make sure everything runs really well. When you have a show that is like an hour long, an hour and a half long, that is super important that they're making sure everyone's focused and everything's where they need to be. Our stage managers always wear headsets so they can communicate directly with the people in the booth, like myself doing the lights or Mr. Sensor doing the sound. So if there's a problem with a mic, we can switch out batteries when that person comes off stage. For your shows, because they're like 4, 6, 10 minutes long at the most, stage managers really in charge of making sure everyone's behaving themselves. They would be a go-between Mrs. Keith and I and the actors to be like, all right, we're having a problem with so-and-so backstage. Could you redirect their behavior? And they would come to us and we would be the one to actually talk to the person. But it's kind of like the stage manager kind of walks around to make sure everything's getting done and is kind of like the extension of the director to help them make sure everything's getting done and it communicates with them. Choreographer, that's the dance person. If your show needs dance, it's the choreographer that will design and make up the dances and teach them to your um, cast members. We don't always need a choreographer. Actor learns the director's blocking and instructions. They wear the costumes, they use the props. They're the person you see on the stage. They're the ones that make the words come to life. They're the ones that say, hey, here's what's on the page. Now I'm going to make it happen on the stage. So they have to embody the character and say the words as the composer or the writer meant them to be, and follow the directions of the director. That's really important too, that actors can follow the directions as much as they can be creative and come up with their own thing for their different characters. So who will you be? So what I need you to do is take one of the papers. You need to do two. It's really important that you do two. I'm going to show them to you really fast. So the theater application, you need your name. When it says applicant, you're the applicant. So you put your name. Today's date, it's November 2nd. Class period, whatever class you're in. Then you pick one job for each paper. You're going to complete two of these. Follow the directions. If it says to write 2 sentences, write 2 sentences. If it says to list things or to write 3 sentences, you get the choice there. But you need to do 2 of these, one for each job, your first choice and your second choice. All right? We're going to have a great time with this project. I can't wait to get started. Thanks so much for watching the video, and let's go.